Hello. So, I'm going to do something different this month here in February. I decided that it'd be fun just to list some of my... I was going to do top 5 lists, like favorite actors, favorite actresses, but, you know, Oscar season is coming up. I thought about listing my favorite performances of the year, and then I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a couple videos, one video every week of a list of my favorites of something. Like, this week, it'll be favorite performances by an actress. Next week, favorite performances by an actor. And I know with the gender equality thing going on these days, people might want me to combine them. Like, why don't you just give your favorite performances? Why, that might leave some people out. So I think it's just fair to give each one equal time rather than merge them together. Anyway, so I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite female performances in a film of all time. These aren't in any particular order, except for my number one. My number one is actually surprising because it's not like my favorite movie or even favorite movie series. It's one of my favorite movie series. But my memory doesn't work like it used to. Age, alcoholism, kids. I had to write this stuff down. So, pardon the noise. But I'm going to just discuss a couple of my favorite performances by a woman, female, young lady. Now, I did run into the issue in my head, well, what about transgender people? Well, unfortunately, at least to my knowledge, none of these people have transitioned or anything like that, so I'm not going to differentiate. Whatever the person is now is what they'll go on my list. So say if I come across a performance by somebody like, hey, that person was born a woman, but they became a man, well, then I'll put them on my best male performances list, because that's just how I roll. Anyway, so here are some of my favorite performances by a female in film. Like, that's all important. Like, anybody's gonna watch this fucking shit anyway. Danielle Harris in the Hatchet films. Now, there are a couple of women that I've jokingly said to my wife, if I had the opportunity, and Danielle Harris is one of them. And I know a lot of people are like, well, who the fuck is Danielle Harris? As a little girl, Danielle Harris was Michael Myers' niece in Halloween 4 and 5. She was also the young girl in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Fast forward a couple years later, she's done a lot of really good movies and a lot of good horror films, and I think she is an extremely underrated actress, especially her performance in Hatchet 2. I bring this up because Victor Crowley just came out the other day, which will be getting a review from me soon because I loved Victor Crowley. Thought it was fantastic. So Danielle Harris is up there. She's given a lot of stellar performances, but her in Hatchet 2, that's just what does it for me. Another one, another horror film, and from the first Conjuring movie, Joey King. Once again, people, who's Joey King? She's the young girl who in the scene, she's like, it's standing right behind you. That girl, her performance in that film, especially for a young person, male or female, it is so believable. I mean, you look at her face and you can tell this girl is terrified. I mean, and if you look, I mean, like my wife didn't see it the first couple times we saw The Conjuring. You can see a little outline behind that door. It's faint. It's so hard to see. Now we've got this bigger TV. It's a little easier, but there is a faint outline there, and you have to really look for it. Now, I really liked her in the movie Wish Upon, even though everybody shit on that movie. I thought the movie, I guess going into it, thinking, oh, this is going to be terrible, I actually thought it was okay. And she was one of the only watchable parts of White House Down, her and Jamie Foxx. I am a Channing Tatum fan now. I like movies he does. Didn't care for that movie, but she was really good in it. So, Joey King. Amy Adams as Giselle in Enchanted. Yeah, coming from a guy who looks like this, the tattoos and the long hair, I love Enchanted. I think it's one of the most charming, sweetest, just all-around good movies. It's just so satisfying on every level. The songs work, That's How You Know She's Your Love. Amy Adams' performance during that scene especially, during the whole dance number of That's How You Know She Loves You, I can't not grin ear to ear when I see it. I don't care if it makes me sound like a nerd. I just absolutely love her performance in that movie. And Amy Adams is one of my favorite actresses. I think Arrival was just an amazing film. I know a lot of people didn't like Arrival. I really dug it, and her performance sold it for me. Nocturnal Animals. I mean, there's so many movies that Amy Adams has been in where she has just given sincerely stellar performances, but my favorite of hers is as Giselle in Enchanted. This one's a little different because it's a voice-over performance. We had just recently gotten into, in the last year or so, watching the Studio Ghibli, or Ghibli, you can tell me how it's pronounced, I have no idea, Ghibli films, those anime films. I found that I really enjoy them. Even the one I like the least, of the ones I've seen, which is Howl's Moving Castle, the one I like the least, it's still a really good movie. My favorites are My Neighbor Totoro, Nausicaa, Valley of the Wind, and one of my favorite female performances, Kirsten Dunst in the American voiceover of Kiki's Delivery Service. I fell in love with Kiki's Delivery Service. I watched that movie, and when it was over, I wanted to watch it again right away. There's just something so innocent and charming and special about that movie. Miyazaki, in my opinion, it's the best thing he ever did, was Kiki's Delivery Service. And most people will say Spirited Away. And I just saw, as a cinephile that I am, I'm going to be 38 in a couple of days, I'd never seen it until just last week. I'd never seen Spirited Away. Finally got to see it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved it. I thought it was a great movie. I'm mad at myself for, my oldest daughter, Sam, had the movie here, and she moved out and took it with her, and I never watched it. I should have given that movie a chance years ago. It was a fantastic film, but Kiki's Delivery Service is my favorite, and Kirsten Dunst's performance as Kiki has a lot to do with that. Next is going to be a Scarlett Johansson performance. I like Scarlett Johansson in almost everything I see her, and I know she gets shit on for her Black Widow performance, but I like it. I love her as an actress. I think she's very talented. I think she's gotten better and better and better and better and better, and she just lets it go. I mean, Scarlett Johansson does really low-budget films, and then she'll turn around and be Black Widow in the Avengers movies, She is a very versatile actress. I think she's just gotten better, and I mean, everything you see about her, she's just the nicest person. But my favorite performance of hers is not my favorite movie of hers, but the movie Lucy, a very overlooked movie. I really dug Lucy. I really like that movie. If you have not seen Lucy, check it out. A lot of people hate it. A lot of people don't like Luc Besson's films, like the Taken movies and such. And I understand. Luc Besson recently did a movie. If I might change my top 5 worst films of the year list from this past a couple weeks ago that I did. I'm going to kick The Mummy off of that and put Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets in there because that movie was so fucking terrible. But Luc Besson can do good movies. He can write and direct very good movies, and Lucy, in my opinion, was one of those. And Scarlett Johansson in Lucy is amazing. My next one is like a no-brainer. I think anybody that watches the Hunger Games movies, and you might, Jennifer Lawrence. I love Jennifer Lawrence. I think she's a very good actress. In fact, her performance in Mother almost made this list. I know a lot of people didn't like Mother, but man, I'm so mad she wasn't nominated for that film. But for me, The Hunger Games, the best performance in any of the movies is Elizabeth Banks' Effie Trinket. She just, you want to talk about an actress that just chews the scenery. Me and my wife were talking about this just the other day. If you, as a student of film, if you want to watch a performance of how you reach over the top to the point where it's almost annoying and unwatchable, but it just almost gets there so it's still really fun, Elizabeth Banks as Effie Trinket. She just gives her all. Everything is just so glamorous and just, you can tell she's having so much fun. And when an actor or actress is in a film having fun, it always translates to the screen. Even in terrible movies, you're like, well, they look like they were having the time of their life. Watch Mordecai with Johnny Depp. It's all by all means a terrible movie that I still like. He's having a ball in that film. Elizabeth Banks is having so much fun playing Effie Trinket in The Hunger Games. I won't drag this on too much longer. This is going to be a funny one. I'm not the biggest fan of the scary movie films. I like the first one a lot, but after that they kind of tapered off for me. But Regina Hall, I love her in those movies. I want to see her in more stuff, and I know she's done a lot that I haven't gotten around to seeing yet. She is not an actress that stopped working, but her performance in the scary movies is just so good. She's so funny because she doesn't seem like the kind of person that would play that kind of character, and then she does, and she does it with such intensity that she's one of the reasons I like the first one so much. I forget her character's name. I don't know why I didn't write it down. I think her character's name was Brenda in those movies. I could be wrong. But Regina Hall in Scary Movie, I don't know. I know those movies aren't great, but just her in them, I could watch them over and over again. The first 2, after that, I can't watch any of them. 3 and 4, I never even saw 5 because I heard it was so bad. But in 1 and 2, Regina Hall is wonderful. This one I'll just gloss over real quick because it speaks for itself. Uma Thurman in Kill Bill. Loved her in Pulp Fiction. I love Uma Thurman in everything she does. Especially Henry and June. But in Kill Bill, God, she's amazing. Now, personally, I like Volume 1 better than Volume 2. And I think a lot of people agree with me on that. However, I just, Uma Thurman, just so good in those movies. This is a newer one. If you haven't seen Hitman's Bodyguard yet, I highly recommend you watch it. And one of the main reasons you should watch that movie is Salma Hayek's performance as, what's her name? Sonia Kincaid. Salma Hayek as Sonia Kincaid is so good. She's just, everything she says, every other word out of her mouth is motherfucker, and just seeing somebody like Salma Hayek that's just extraordinarily talented, intelligent, beautiful actress, she looks like a woman in prison. She's in prison, her hair's not even done, it's just thrown back, she's wearing like barely like these shitty looking clothes, and she's just sitting in a chair, Indian style, motherfucking everybody in the room. And even when Samuel Jackson, who plays her husband, calls her, she still bitches him out too. But there's a scene where it shows when her and Samuel Jackson first meet in a bar. It's one of my favorite performances ever given by anybody. Both of them in that scene are so amazing because she just kills like half the people in the bar. If you've not seen Hitman's Bodyguard, I highly recommend it. Now we're going to get into a couple more classic performances before I get to my ultimate favorite. I'm a Lord of the Rings nerd. Cate Blanchett as Lady Galadriel. Now, Cate Blanchett is my favorite actress of all time. Even in movies that I don't like. I don't like The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I don't think that's a very good movie. She's amazing in that film. Cate Blanchett, Carol, aside from the scene that's notorious, I actually enjoyed Carol. I thought it was a really well shot, really well done film. I enjoyed Carol quite a bit. And she's amazing in that. But come on, it's Lady Galadriel. In any of the Lord of the Rings or Hobbit films, especially in Fellowship, I think that's where she gives her best performance. But she's just so immersed in the character, and it's just almost like, I know everybody like rants and raves over Liv Tyler as Arwen, and she's amazing. I love Liv Tyler, but to me, there's just something about Lady Galadriel that's just so much more just like you just get in a trance watching her perform that part. My next one, Talia Shire, who my favorite movie ever made is The Godfather, and she's in The Godfather. But her performance in Rocky 2, I think, is just almost unparalleled. I mean, Talia Shire in Rocky 2 just gives the performance of a lifetime. I mean, you cannot watch her or Sylvester Stallone in that movie and not be moved. She's wonderful in that film. Wonderful in all the Rocky films. Adrian, I was upset when they killed her off, but I understood why. And when they explained it to Talia Shire, apparently she was like, oh yeah, well that makes sense. You know, we have to do something different with the character. He has to be brought out of his comfort zone that Adrian provided for him. But Adrian, as much as Rocky was the star of those films, Adrian was the backbone of those films. And she is one of the main reasons they work so well, because her rapport with Sylvester Stallone is amazing. Alright. Jenny Agutter as Nurse Alex Price in An American Werewolf in London. I think that's one of the most underrated horror film performances of all time. You almost never hear anybody talk about it. I mean, yeah, she's done a lot of other films. She was in Child's Play 2. She's in a lot of things, but her as the nurse in that film, her performance was just very believable. And how she handled the situation of, hey, this guy I just fell in love with, it was in my hospital, he's a werewolf now, you know, and her, just the way that she approaches him as the werewolf in the closing shot of the film, which if you haven't seen American Werewolf in London, I did a review of that like 2 years ago, one of my favorite movies of all time. Her interactions with him as the werewolf in the closing like 2 minutes of the film is just, it's heartbreaking. And for a movie that's kind of a horror comedy to end on a heartbreaking note, that's just, John Landis is an amazing director and he deserves so much credit for that, but she is amazing in that movie. Now we're getting down to the last couple. I know it's a newer movie, but I'm going to include it. And look, she's on my shirt. I didn't even intend that. Either however you want to pronounce it, I've heard it pronounced Gal Gadot, and I've heard it pronounced Gal Gadot. Or Gadot. I watched her on Jimmy Kimmel, or Jimmy Fallon. I don't really watch Jimmy Fallon. I watched it on YouTube. And he called her Gal Gadot. And she didn't correct him, so I'm almost guessing that might be the correct pronunciation. But her as Wonder Woman, now she was great in Batman v Superman, and she was really good in Justice League, but in the Wonder Woman movie, man, that is just one of the most kick-ass performances ever captured on film. I mean, I liken it to the next one I'm going to say, which is, it's just seeing, and not only just some badass woman, no, for anyone to play that part with that much heart, that much intensity. I mean, Patty Jenkins, the director, had a lot to do with that too. She really knew how to direct Gal Gadot in those scenes, but Gal Gadot, everybody she talks to, the conversation is believable, it's organic, and it feels necessary to the plot. There's nothing that she does that serves no purpose. My furnace just kicked on. Also, another badass female performance, one of my favorites of all time, Linda Hamilton in Terminator 2. That is what began my attraction to, like, physically fit women. Like, yeah, skinny is one thing, but like just seeing her doing those pull-ups in the beginning and just seeing how just crazy she looks, and she's pretty jacked in that movie. And I just her performance outside of that, Linda Hamilton was fantastic in Terminator 2. But there really wasn't any bad performances in Terminator 2. Everybody carried that film along. Everybody played an equal part, in my opinion. It wasn't just Arnold with everybody. Eddie Furlong, the guy whose name I can never remember that played the T-1000. I don't know why I can't remember. Robert Patrick, I think it might be his name. He was great, but yeah. Heather Langenkamp. Now you might be thinking Nightmare 1 or Nightmare 3. No, Heather Langenkamp in New Nightmare. That movie is, I love New Nightmare. There are people I know that don't even like horror films, but they're like, oh, New Nightmare? Oh yeah, I dig that one. And I know quite a few people, if you ask them what's their favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie, they'll say New Nightmare. Not me, mine's Nightmare 3. I think that's just a classic. But her performance is so good, and it's over the top, it's outlandish, but it's supposed to be that way. It's a Wes Craven film. He doesn't direct anything seriously. Have you ever watched Wes Craven's movies? There's no part of his movies that are supposed to be taken seriously. Even the ones that are about very serious subject matter. I mean, I thought she was fantastic. Alright, now we're down to the final two. My second favorite performance. And these haven't been numbered, but this is my second to my first favorite. My second favorite performance ever given by a female, woman, however you want to say it, in a movie. Sigourney Weaver. Probably gonna think I'm gonna say Aliens. Alright, I love Aliens, I do. I love her in Ghostbusters. The first Ghostbusters movie, Sigourney Weaver to me just gives her responses to Bill Murray, the way that she treats him on screen and the way he handles it in return is just amazing. I mean, she just understood that character. And she was really good in part 2. I did a whole video saying how I don't know why Ghostbusters 2 has all of a sudden become a whipping boy, why people don't like Ghostbusters 2. I don't know. So Sigourney Weaver in that. Now, next week I will be doing my favorite performances by an actor. My number one will surprise you. And I think my number one female performance of all time might... People who don't know me as, like, super well, people that aren't in my, like, that talk to me, like, at least on a monthly basis, won't be surprised by this. But everybody else will be like, really? You haven't talked about those movies a lot. My favorite female performance in any film ever, Helena Bonham Carter as Bellatrix Lestrange in Deathly Hallows Part 1. Now, she's great in all the movies that she's in. Helena Bonham Carter is a tremendous actress. I love her. I loved her in Les Mis. I hate that Charlie and his Chocolate Factory remake fucking thing. I thought that movie was fucking god-awful. I've seen it once, will never watch it again because I hated it so much. Except for, like, her and their family. They were fine. And, like, Johnny Depp, it's the only performance by him that I can actually say I just fucking hate it. He's had performances like From Hell that I thought were, it's okay. Or Ninth Gate, which was alright. Never has Johnny Depp given a performance that I've actually been like, that's fucking terrible. Charlie and Chocolate Factory. But Helena Bonham Carter was still good in that. But her as Bellatrix Lestrange was so just delightfully evil. Like, she is not a person who, all these horrible things that have happened, or even Voldemort, we got a reason why Voldemort's evil. I mean, you're not, I haven't read all the books, I don't know if they go into it directly, but indirectly in the films, you can kind of ascertain why Voldemort turned evil. Bellatrix is evil because she loves being evil, and Helena Bonham Carter performs that spectacularly. Just her facial expressions, her voice inflections, just everything about the scene where in the end of Deathly Hallows 1, where the kids are there and they had just gotten out and they're of the cell in the basement of the Malfoy's house, and they have come to that final fight where unfortunately Dobby gets killed. Helena Bonham Carter in that scene is just delightful. Love her in that movie. So those were my favorite. Now I'm sure there's some people out there like, okay, what about Pom Clemente for Zoe Saldana and Guardians? Oh, those are wonderful. And if I did a top 30, of course those would be on there. You know, there's a couple of Academy Award-winning performances. People are like, well, how come not this? How come not that? I'm not saying this is the best. I have to reiterate that because I've actually had comments like, well, what about this? This is not me saying the best. This is me saying my favorite. So those are my favorite performances given by a female in cinema history. For me, just for me. If you want to leave some comments about if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, if you want to get pizza later, if you prefer Mountain Dew Ice over Sprite, I don't know. Alright, well, I will see you next week. Oh, actually, I'll be back this weekend with a couple more videos. We're watching Den of Thieves. It looks okay. I've heard good things. But Saturday we're doing a rum review of the Emoji Movie, so that's going to be a lot of fun. I've seen it. Jeremy has not. He's in for it. Thank you for watching. Thank all of you for watching. Anybody that watches this, thank you so much. Share, like, subscribe, do all that crazy shit, and I will see you in a couple days. Goodbye.